Breaking news from the Capitol. The U.S. House of Representatives of the United States has voted just moments ago to condemn the President of the United States for having, quote, legitimized fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color. The resolution followed the president's racist comments about 4 congresswomen of color. The vote posed as a reckoning for Republicans. It forced each of them to say on the record whether they condemned the president's remarks or not. And only 4 of those Republicans did condemn them. They were Will Hurd of Texas, Fred Upton of Michigan, Susan Brooks of Indiana, and Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. House Minority Leader Whip Stephen Scalise of Louisiana and Democratic Congressman John Lewis each made closing arguments for each side shortly before the vote. Let's watch.
Rather than engaging in this constant barrage of personality attack that we've seen week after week after week, the American people expect us to be spending our time up here fighting for the issues they care about. And these are easy issues for us to solve if we come together and spend real time in good faith working on them, rather than this foolishness.
I rise with a sense of righteous indignation to support this resolution. I know racism when I see it. I know racism when I feel it. And at the highest level of government, there's no room for racism.
Well, the rebuke to the president comes after he tripled down on his racist attacks again today, saying that those 4 women of Congress hate their country.
Saying that the Democratic congresswomen should leave if they're not happy. Where should they go?
It's up to them. Go wherever they want, or they can stay. But they should love our country. They shouldn't hate our country. And the way they're treating Israel is a disgrace. But not only Israel, it's what they say about our country. It's my opinion they hate our country. And that's not good. It's not acceptable.
Well, Trump also insists on Twitter that those tweets were not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. The so-called vote is to be taken is a Democrat con game. Republicans should not show weakness and fall into their trap. That's all Trump talking there. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was quick to endorse Trump's behavior this morning.
Were the president's tweets that said go back racist? Yes or no?
No. I believe this is about ideology. This is about socialism versus freedom.
Likewise, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell defended the president and said both sides are to blame.
I think everybody ought to tone down their rhetoric. We have examples of that across the ideological spectrum in the country, all across it. Everyone ought to tone down their rhetoric, and we ought to move back to talking about the issues.
You've stopped short of calling his comments racist.
Well, the president's not a racist. The president's not a racist. And I think the tone of all of this is not good for the country.
I'm joined now by 2 Democratic congressmen, David Cicilline of Rhode Island and Ted Lieu of California. Gentlemen, thank you. Congressman Cicilline, you start. Jack Kennedy, when he was president, once said, sometimes party loyalty asks too much. I don't understand these Republicans. Here's a chance. They say, I like his tax cuts. I like his deregulation. I don't like his personal behavior. This was about his personal behavior, and they voted with him like lemmings. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing. This is really a sad vote in many ways. We only had 4 Republicans who were willing to show the courage of their convictions to speak up and condemn this racist language in strong terms. The president's evidence is he doesn't understand what's really great about this country, and that is our diversity, the fact that America is a welcoming place for people all over the world. The idea of saying, go back to your country is one of the oldest racist tropes there is. It should have been condemned by every Democrat, every Republican, every independent, every American. It's un-American. It was disgusting. The president owes them an apology, owes the American people an apology.
Congressman Lieu, you said something very powerful on this. I'd wish you'd say it again.
Thank you, Chris, for your question. So, like many people in America, I'm an immigrant. I also served on active duty in the United States military because I love America. And yet people have told me to go back to China or Japan or North Korea. And it's very hurtful when that happens. And like many immigrants, when we get that go back insult, we feel like we don't belong here in America. And make no mistake, the go back insult is flat out racist because it's based on race. If I was white, people wouldn't tell me to go back to China. They tell me, and I experience that insult because I happen to be of the Asian race. But what's good is Americans now realize that immigration is a good thing. We have high support for immigration. In fact, record highs according to a new poll. And David Cicilline and I are still going to be standing here after the occupant of the White House departs.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.